Okay, we're going to start. Welcome, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you are around the world. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Avinash Tyagi, Secretary General of International Commission on Irrigation and Drainage, and a professional organization bringing together professionals working in agriculture water management. Welcome to this webinar series being organized by International Commission on Irrigation and Drainage. As competition for water resources intensifies, it is becoming more and more important that we start accounting for where the water is going and where we are putting it. It is important that it is transparent and it is done in a very rigorous way. So this webinar is an effort in that direction. I also welcome all those participants who have been following the discussion on water accounting, being organized under World Water Council's accounting initiative, water accounting initiative, which is led by FAO. I therefore invite Ms. Veli Dolitier, agriculture specialist with a specialization in water resources management and working currently with FAO, who is coordinating the discussion to set the context of this webinar. Ms. Dolitier.
Thank you very much. So again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all. Thank you to Mr. Tyagi and ICID for his hosting this important webinar. As indicated, it contributes to the ongoing online discussion on water accounting and water for food that is organized as part of a World Water Council partner initiative on water accounting for agriculture. That initiative gathers FAO, ICID, UNESCO IHE, the International Water Management Institute, and the Nebraska Water for Food Institute, and is facilitated by FAO. In its preparatory process, aiming to bring the water accounting topic in the headlights of policymakers in the form of a white paper that will be shared at the next World Water Forum in March 2018 in Brasilia. So this online discussion and the expert consultation that will follow aim to consult a broad group of stakeholders, both experts in the topic or people interested to learn more, with the idea to build a common understanding on what is water accounting, how it can be done and can be used, gather evidence on why and how water accounting can help decision making and help planning, in particular to manage water scarcity for the very demanding sector, agriculture, and in a context of growing uncertainty and climate change, it will be even more important. So the case of Australia that is going to be presented today is very interesting in many ways in our discussion. It's a country water scarce with a very long history of innovative water management strategy. And it's also interesting in its decision to use and combine different approaches to water accounting, physical and socioeconomic, that enable to report both on the sustainability of the water resources, but also the economic weight of water in the national economy. So I look forward, as all of you, to the presentation of Dr. Elmahdi, who will just kind of clarify what is happening in Australia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dolitier. May I now request President Dr. Narezi, President of ICID, to say a couple of words, please?
Good afternoon and good morning to everybody. I'm very happy, and I would like to welcome all of you, wherever you are, to our fifth webinar where we have we have been accepted overwhelmingly by our audience. Water accounting and auditing at farm level was a program on the, I think the third our webinar was concerning that matter, but now today we expect to bring the this water accounting at national level, and in which ICID is strongly advocating water accounting as a how to manage the water at farm level. Now, today, we are looking forward to see how it can be implemented at the national and local level. I would like to thank our Dr. Elmahdi and waiting for his presentation to get benefit out of his experience for everybody. So I wish all of you a successful and good time to and fruitful meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Just to remind people that if you are looking forward to having a recording of these webinars, they are available, as you can see on the screen on our website. And similarly, this webinar proceeding also will be available later on. Let me also mention that you can, before I invite Dr. Amgad Elmahdi to start, you can keep on sending your questions. As you all know, you are very well aware now with the software here. Please send your written questions and please let them be very specific and precise so that more questions can be really taken up. All these questions will be taken up at the end of the meeting, basically, end of the presentation by Dr. Amgad. We will also be able to take up a few views and sharing of experiences. If you are interested in sharing your experiences, please raise your e-hand, which you might find in the software on the right side. So with that, let me introduce Dr. Amgad Elmahdi. He's the Senior Executive Manager heading the Water Resources Section in Bureau of Meteorology, Australia, and has wide experience which encompasses operation, research, academics, and teaching on various aspects of integrated water resources management. Well, he plays a key role in water information services being provided by Bureau of Meteorology as required under the Water Act of 2007. Dr. Elmahdi has been involved in several projects and feasibility studies for land and water management projects in many countries, such as Egypt, Afghanistan, China, and of course Australia. So without wasting much of time, so I will request Dr. Amgad Elmahdi to make his presentation. Dr. Elmahdi, the ball is in your court. Please transmit and share your screen when you start.
Yep, thank you. Thanks everyone, and good morning and afternoon. I will start share my slides. Can you see the slides?
Yeah, yes. Please share your screen. Now you are the presenter, Doctor.
Yep. Can you see the slides now?
Not yet. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So thanks everyone for inviting me to talk to you about the Australian experience with the National Water Account. So today what I would like to do is to give you an overview on the Australian climate conditions and then explain what is the water sector and the challenge as a motivation for introducing the water accounting concept in Australia. And I will take you through how we went through about developing the National Water Account standard, and we use it as to develop a concept or the framework about how we are reporting using the National Water Account at the national scale, and then I will end up with some summary about different type of current use of the national water account, and then some conclusion and remarks. Just before I kick off, to tell you or to give you idea about the Bureau of Meteorology is a statutory executive agency. It's a Commonwealth agency, and we are having around 34 offices around the country. We report or we provide weather and climate and water information. And this actually to support the Australian community in terms of safety, sustainability, well-being, and prosperity. And if you look at the sustainability here, you will see water assessment and accounting is part of our outcomes that actually deliver on this outcome. So looking at the Australian climate, it's we are one of the very high variable rainfall countries that we actually getting rainfall and drought or moving between flood and drought very frequently, and sometimes during the year or between years. And this, of course, raised some challenge for the water resource management in the country. And this come into like the intensifications of the hydrological cycle, the variability in the rainfall, of course, population and urbanizations having more impact, and as the variability in the rainfall reflect in reduced stream flow, it also reflect in increasing groundwater use. So if you look at the stream flow variability, so this is a study being conducted by Melbourne Uni that look at 1,221 rivers around the world, and looking for all the stations that has more than 10 years. What this actually telling us is, if you look at the coefficient of variation, Australia is ranking number 3. But if you look deeply inside the analysis and look at the 10 percentile and 90 percentile and the difference between them, Australia actually ranked number 1. And this actually shows as we have a very high variable rainfall and stream flow. If we look at the water sector in Australia, and this come with the current government structure, like 3 tiers or 3 layers of the government, like we have the Commonwealth or the federal government, state government, and local government, but also we have the supply operator and water manager as utilities, plus of course industry and the public as user. And this gives you idea on how many players within the water sector that make the sector are complex to manage. If we look at how this sector been behaving, there is a good debate and polarization in the discussion about allocating or allocate the water. Is it taking water from irrigation and allocate it for environment, or urban and rural, where we should do more efficiency or more efficient use, or sometimes regulation between state and state or state and federal, or what type of alternative sources we should look at, dissemination or recycle. So during that drought time, or the recent drought, that as we call it millennium drought, starting in 2000 and continue up to 2010, this actually raised a question or a big questions at the country, and there were a lot of information, but we couldn't answer those fundamental or easy, simple question. How much water do we have? How much water has been traded or allocated to use? And this was actually the trigger for the Prime Minister to come in 2007 and introduce the Water Act. And this Water Act gave the Bureau of Meteorology the mandate to develop or introduce new service. One of those services, if you see here, it's highlighted in yellow, is actually to publish an annual national water account. So let's see how we do this. So as we collecting a lot of information from like over 200 organizations around the country, and this is a major component in the national water account, data availability and data accessibility. we take this data through like quality control standardize, and then we analyze and interpret and provide this as a service. And of course, we use the models to fill the gaps in the data as we do the water tariffs. But if you look at the number of products we produce, every single product has an answer for some of the questions. And if you look at the national water account here, the critical question that need to be answered is how much water was allocated, traded, and used and available. And this report on the last year. Some product, of course, report on last week or today. Some product report on more longer term or the historical record as the assessment product. And I think all of them are complement each other. So national water account, before I go into more in depth into the national water account, I would like to bring to your attention there is two accounts happening in Australia. One is the national water account, which we do at the Bureau of Meteorology, and this actually is based on the hydrological boundaries. So what it reports on, it's reports on the water in the environment. So in terms of the water availability, right to use, and entitlement, but also to provide information about climate and weather and how this actually impacts the water availability and policy and practice. There is another account that's happening again in Australia. We call it the water account in Australia. And this is actually based on the administrative boundaries. And this run by Australian Bureau of Statistics. And it's very much taking the water in the economy. So they're looking at the water that's been already abstracted from the environment, but where it went into the industry, what type of industry had used this water, but also they go one step ahead and link this in monetary basis. So what is the monetary value or the dollar value of that water, and bring this into the big national accounting system where we report on the gross domestic product. So the key link between the two accounts here, it's very much the actual abstraction that's being reported by the national water account and the water that's being supplied to the economy or to the user that's being reported in the water accounting, water account Australia. So where the national water account ends, the water account Australia starts to take this to the next step. So let's focus on the national water account for water in the environment. So what it's looking for, it's looking to provide a national consistent information and report on the amount of water that's being entitled, available, allocated, accessed for other use or for use, and also being traded between different regions, but also how much water being lost as well through the system. So how we do this? So it's really, we try to measure the science of water or the science of hydrology with the financial accounting science as well. And we try to bring in the asset and liability definitions from the account to the water sector or the water volume. And this actually, or the national water account should be independent, standardized information, provide a quality assured and assertive information. And it needs to be guided by a standard. So we went to develop an Australian water accounting standard, and we'll talk about this in the following slides. But this actually put Australia since 2004 as Australian first to really initiate and adapt this framework. So in the national water account, before I talk about the standard, it actually reports on 8 significant regions in the country. Those 10 regions actually cover around 80% of the population that live in the country, almost 80% from the water that's being supplied and used, around 70% within the urban sector, most of the agricultural area or water being used in the irrigation, and also all the water trading that's happening inside the country. So how did we develop the Australian water accounting standard that we have used as principle to produce the national water account? So let's first agree, what is the water accounting here? So the water accounting for us here, it's a systematic process that we use to identify and recognize, quantify and reporting, and provide and assuring information about water as a volume, the right or other claim for that water, and also the obligation against that water, so the liability against that water we have. So how we developed this, so it started in 2004, and the aim for that was actually to support the public and investor confidence in the amount of water that actually traded or extracted for use or recovered or managed for environmental purpose or other public benefits. So in the process, we started by look at like stock take, because the water accounting was happening in ad hoc or based on needs at different scale. And we came in 2006 with first recommendation like the water accounting need to be developed as a discipline. So we need actually to educate people and bring new generation understanding the water accounting concept and apply this across the country. In 2007, we established, bring into the financial accounting analogy or terminology and also concept, and we start the pilot program with all the water managers and practitioners. So working with them to see what the water accounting report should be and what should report on and how they should use it as well. In 2008, the POM take the responsibility for the national water account. 2009, we came with the water accounting conceptual framework, and this translated into the pilot program and come with the first draft in 2010 with the water accounting standard. We put this draft to the public comments, and we work closely with the auditing and assurance standard board in the country to ensure we actually adopt the same standard level. And this will make the National Water Account report as an audited report. So any number in the account should be able to be audited. And then in 2013, we update this with the Australian Water Accounting Standard 2. All those documents being provided, and you can access this through the documents board. The people that were involved, just for record, this cover like water manager, supply manager, dam operator, irrigation utilities or irrigation companies, urban utilities company, industry like mineral industry, and also some other industry. So the concept for this standard being developed with a full consultation around the country. So what is actually delivered? So the Australian Water Accounting Standard 1, as we call it, it's being developed for actually prepare us to come with a general purpose water accounting report. So we try to use the standard to develop the first general purpose water accounting report. So what this actually should tell, it should actually give a common way to produce this information and present the water accounting information. And it should be used as an auditing report, easy to compare and very consistent, and should be applied across the country. So the general purpose of the water account should provide this information to the user that actually looking at that report in a way they can use this information to be able to evaluate any decisions for water allocation or water resources management. So what is involved, or what is the component of that proposed water accounting report? So it has 5 statements and note disclosure at the 6th chapter. On those statements, like contextual statement, just to give the background about the region or the entity you are reporting on. Accountability statement, it's about all the data that's being collected and used. And then the 3 like physical statement, one about the water asset and liability, the second one about the change in the asset and liability, the third one is like the water flow, and then the note disclosure that actually report on each line item or each number that in the account, how it's being collected as a data or measured, or how it's being estimated or calculated, and the source of this information and the quality of this. data or what method being used to estimate those numbers. I will cover the three key physical statements here, like water acid exchange and water flow in the following slides. So let's see the statement of the water acid and liability. What this need to tell? So it's actually to provide information that help the user to understand the nature and the volume of water resources for the reporting entity. And this entity for us here, it's like the hydrological boundary regions. And it's expand beyond administrative boundary, or could be your administrative boundary actually overlay or cross the hydrological boundaries. But it also provides the volume that represents the obligation against this water. So if you have an asset, you can actually have some liability against this asset, like 10 units of water, but you already have liability or allocated or announced allocation at the beginning of the year for like 80%. So this is actually your liability. So the net water asset will be only 2 units from the 10. And I will explain this later. The second statement here, looking at the change in the water asset and liability. So this actually gives the information to the user to understand how it's been increased as an asset or decreased, or the liability that increased and decreased, and then the change in the net water asset. For example, if you look here, so what is the water asset increase? And this actually as like the precipitation that received by the water storage, the inflow or as generated runoff. So this actually show you the increase. In terms of decrease, this could be the evaporation from your water asset or water storage, or the outflow that actually release from those storage. So what is the benefit actually by doing that? So there is a benefit for the people that prepare the report by using the standard. And this actually makes them meet their obligation in terms of one single report. It actually helps the public to understand the water resource planning. It gives them the possibility to align the financial account with the water information or the water account. It demonstrates actually the responsible stewardship or the environmental benefits. And also, of course, improve the understanding of the water system and all its components. If you talk about an irrigation system or an urban system, you can understand all the components of that system and how it's being managed. In terms of user of the report, so this actually helps them to make a better decision, and it's to improve their decision making, help them to understand the water management planning decision and its impact, become more effective and efficient to compare the investment opportunity, enhance the confidence in the information that's being presented in that report. This is just the link here if you wanted to read more about the standard by itself. So you can access this website, and this will provide you with a lot of information about standard and how it can be used. So let's take the water accounting concept, how we use the standard to develop the water accounting concept. So water accounting concept started by, we need to report on the whole system and assess the whole system. So it needs to come, as it's based on the hydrological boundaries, it can actually come across utility boundaries or administrative boundaries. So it's not limited by administrative boundary, it's really by hydrological boundary for any region, and all the assets within this hydrological region, and all the inflow and outflow. The unit, of course, the currency here, it's the megaliter or the volume of water, not actually the dollar. And this is what makes the national water account different from Australian water account. And of course, it's prepared based on the financial account, like the accrual basis, which means like, yes, you report about the increase or the decrease in water, and this based on like, yes, you have the ability or someone make claim for that water. So this is being reported in this year. Even the flow hasn't been happened, but it's been already committed. So you don't have actually access to this water because you have committed to some other user. So it has like an asset and liability in two terms, physical water and non-physical water. And what we mean here, physical water, the water that you have control on, as like surface water or groundwater. Non-physical water that already has a claimed water, like water that's been already claimed. So it's not existing within your physical entity, but it's being claimed by other entities. So it's like an inter-basin agreement, or some other utility like wholesaler that needs to provide water for like a distributor in urban sector. The water accounting, as I said, like it has three key statements or physical water statements. And this, like the first one is the water asset and liability, and this work as the balance sheet in the accounting concept. So it reports about like how much water is available. So if you look at this schematic here, it tells you like how much water available in the surface water, like surface storage, or within the urban system, or within the irrigation system, or as a ground water. So how much water is also going to another area as a liability at the start and end of your reporting year. A reporting year here, it's the financial year. So we report from 1st of July to end of June the following year. And of course, if you subtract liability from the asset, it gives you the net water asset. The example I mentioned, like you have 10 units and you already has liability for 8. So your net asset is 2. And of course, this actually indicates for the region how healthy is it. If your net asset is positive, so that means your region is very healthy, and if it's negative, you have a problem with the system. If you look at the second statement, like statement of a change in water asset and liability, so this work as the income statement. So it reports on all the change, like increase and decrease, like your income and your expenses. If you look at your bank statements, so you get your salary income coming every month, and then all the expenses you spend during the month, let's say. And this is what it's like income statement. So in the water space, so you look, for example, for the groundwater, you look at the recharge, the surface groundwater interaction, or artificial recharge. For surface water system, you look at runoff or the delivery that comes from other system or other entity outside your hydrological boundaries. And of course, the change in the water asset minus a change in water liability give you the change in the net water asset. If you look at the third statement of the water flow, and this is like the cash flow statement. So all the inflow and all the outflow from your water store or your system that are reporting on. And you can see like all the red arrow here represent all the water that deliver or come out of the system, just to give you an idea. So inflow minus outflow water store, and this for each reporting year. So what that actually requirement for that? So you require a lot of data to be able actually to introduce or make this report. And this comes from climate data, meter data, as flow or transfer. We use modeling data to get like runoff or groundwater, discharge or movement, and you get also that license data. So this actually require from us to work with many data provider. We actually call them reporting partners. So we work with them in a very collaborative way to be able to produce this national water accounts every year for those 10 regions. So for those 10 regions, we work with 45 reporting partners, and this cross like utilities, local government, other corporate or other irrigation bodies like irrigation utilities. So how we do this? So we collect data from the 45, we combine or merge the hydrology and financial accounting model, and we're being guided by the water accounting standard. So using the data and the hydrological model give us the ability to produce the report at the national scale but also provide perspective. And this actually came for us very recently, as we've been doing the national water account now for the last 6 years. What we found actually, we've been able now to provide perspective on the water security and many other questions. Because at the beginning, I can assure you, we have faced a lot of questions like who needs the account, why the account need to be dissolved, how will it be used. It's only 1 year account, but since we start doing every year, this actually helped to provide insight and provide more perspective on the water resources. And of course, taking this to the next phase, how the information being used to provide or help the decision-making process. So who's actually using the account standard or the account? So of course, the Bureau of Meteorology, we use the account to meet our mandate and report on the water resources status in the accounting system. So you can see here like this, like the water asset statement for one of the region like Murray-Darling Basin as one of the key basin for agriculture. And you can see like under the surface water, all the store that being reported. And this gives you the volume for previous year and current year. This is just very old one. And then give you again a report on the benefit as well for the water that being used or allocated. For example, here just the environmental benefits. State government, they adapted that standard as well, and they start to use the same concept to report. So this bring in a consistency between the state reporting and the Commonwealth of the federal reporting. So at the national and at the state level, the same concept, the same information, very consistent and very comparable. You can actually compare the information there. And of course, they use the same type of statement like change in the water asset and liability, and then provide this in a schematic way that shows the mass balance in all the water flow. So one of the big use here for the accounts, it's actually answers the question about water security. So for example here, the information that the account will use in the urban areas. So this all the major cities here in Australia. And if you look at this figure, what it's actually telling us. So at end of the year, let's say for 14-15, Adelaide and Perth are actually having less than 1 year to meet their demand, their future demands. So this is how you can provide this insight and information. If you look at SEQ and Sydney, they have actually around 4 years to meet their future demand. So this answers the question about water security in the urban sector. And this can expand, of course, or this type of insight can be expanded for other sectors as well. Other example of how the information being used in the National Water Account. So we have here that Commonwealth environmental holder who has responsibility to allocate water for environment or even buy back water from irrigation to be allocated for environment. They use the water accounting to decide how much water actually need to be allocated for the environment. Department of Environment, it's like a federal department or Commonwealth department. They use the information again to brief the Parliament about different options of recycle or desalination and its benefits. They use actually this information to support the policy development and shape the new future investment through the government. Energy Australia, as the private sector, they use this information and they found it's a very commitment as a regulatory report. So they can actually assess their investments in a very standard manner. Water New South Wales, it's like a state department. They use again this information to compare their system to other state systems and also see how supply and demand can be met as well. And of course, in the research area, there is a lot of research happening within Australia and also outside Australia, and they rely to use this information as well. So to summarize here, some of the benefits. So it's actually provide an answer of the key questions in terms of how much water available, how much water being entitled for or used or allocated or traded in a very standard way. So you can actually compare any region to another and look at the national scale. It actually increased the transparency in the water management and accountability across the country. It provides very comparable information in a spatial and temporal way. It actually guides the policymaker so they can actually look at this authoritative information in a standard way and use it to provide or enhance or revise their water resource planning. It improved the public awareness about the status of the water resources and the security question from their perspective. And of course, it highlights the gap and inconsistency in any data and knowledge that being collected during the production phase of the national water account. So we can say, yes, there is a gap here in this data, and this data needs to be collected. So last slide here. So take-home message. Australia National Water Account, it's a very integrated, detailed, standardized. It's answers the customer and stakeholder question about the water resource management and planning, address the water security, change in supply and demand or use in the metropolitan cities and also irrigation area, provide data checking and quality control, and of course, as a national comparison. You can access, of course, the National Water Account through our website. You can select any year you are interested in for the recent year. Also, there is a videos on YouTube where it explain again more about the water account and its use and its value. So let's be inventive and bring this concept more widely. Just for your knowledge, the Bureau of Information run also different type of webinars, and we're planning over the next 6 months a number of webinars here that cover other products like groundwater ecosystem, like the value for the groundwater ecosystem, the landscape water balance as a continental modeling system that give consistent information, and other product forecasting. So if you are interested, you can use this email to register and they will update you. So thank you, and happy to take questions.
Thank you, Dr. Amgad. It was a really very illustrative presentation, and a lot of questions have come. Although I can understand that these, almost all these questions have been covered. Dr. Amgad, are you able to see the questions there in the chat box, in the box?
Yeah.
So I can read it. Okay, if you then please take one by one if you like. Right? Can you please just please read them aloud for the benefit of all other participants?
Yeah. So the first one here is which agency does the resource measurement, like rainfall, river, sediments, water quality, etc., and other river sedimentation and quality issues? So yes, we as a bureau, we don't do monitoring by ourselves. As I mentioned, we collect the data from over 200 organizations around the country, and this is supported by the Water Act and regulations that define what data we need to collect, in what format, in what frequency, and this happens by, it can be an urban utility or an irrigation utility or irrigation company or a state department or even a council like local government. Anyone collecting those data or monitor those data, they provide it to us, and then we do our quality check and control on that data to be able to use in the account. Second question, what software is used for water accounting, if any? Yes, so as I mentioned, we use the water balance framework, and this including modeling. So we have our own modeling system that report on the whole country or divide the country in 5 by 5 kilometer grid. So this is part of the software. Other software like QuickBooks, we use it also to get all the statement or balance sheet and flow statement. by using QuickBooks, which is the well-known software for the accounting. Third question here, how other forms of water are accounted for, like green water? We just here report on the physical water, like surface and groundwater. We report on the water in the soil, like soil moisture water, but not in the accounting concept. We report that in the water assessment report, where we provide this type of information, but not in the account. So the account actually work with the water that can be counted and have access to and measured as well. Fourth question, do we have an established model and procedure which could be applied worldwide, especially in India, for having national water account? Short answer, yes, to some extent. So the modeling system we are using to calculate a lot of the line items in the accounts, if it's not measured or monitored. This modeling system now we introduce it as a community model, which is we release a code of the model that can be applied everywhere. So we call it AWRA, AWRA, community system, and anyone can download it. It's for free. They can run it and use it to simulate their system. It will require information like to warm up the model, and inputs file need to be generated. So this model, it's run now at 5 by 5 kilometer grid as an operational system. So, and it's also a daily model. So each day at 9 a.m. we update the model outputs on our website, and it's available. The community system can be the same, but it will require some work, of course, to be customized to your case. Like if it's in India, yes, it can be customized, of course. And I'm happy to take this offline and have further discussion. You can contact me by email and we can discuss this. The following question, look from the perspective of developing country like India, what organization, institutional reform or change are required to have a robust and functional water accounting? This because governing water organization with the knowledge and right discipline backed by norms, legal framework. So it's a very long question, but all right. So the question here is in a summary. So what is actually required in other countries like developing countries like India? If I talk about the Australian experience here, like during the Millennium Drought, yes, there were a lot of data that being monitored and collected, but those data wasn't accessible. So one of the key one here is actually to establish a water information program or a platform where you can get access to all the data that's available, and then define what is missing or what is the gap, and then you can see where the model can actually help. So the first step actually to look at the data. The concept of the water account, it's well developed now around the world. It's available. It can be adapted by other regions, but the key fundamental question is actually the data required to be able to adapt to the concept and apply it and start to reduce it. Of course, it needs to be supported by soft institutional, like some legal framework and some policy and mandates. Sometimes it needs to be supported also by hard institutional, like organizations type that has this capacity to be able to produce a national water account or at whatever scale.
Dr. Amgad, maybe I can intervene in between and let Domitier you have some question and some comments. Can you go ahead with your comments, please?
Yep.
I had two questions, I think, at the moment. I just didn't see any reference to water quality aspects. So we wanted to know what is currently, I mean, how do you account for it? And also the second question is, how do you see, because you didn't kind of in your conclusion refer to it, the use of the water accounting for reporting on the Sustainable Development Goals, and in particular for the goal 6 that is related to water resources?
Yep. All right. So in terms of the water quality, so we currently are not including the water quality aspect in the water account. So we just report on the physical water or flow. But on our enhancement or development is actually to start looking at the quality. But at this stage, we are not considering quality within the account. It will require a separate report. In terms of your second question, like how we can use the water accounting to report on SDG or the Sustainable Development Goals, we start to look at this now to see like how you can actually transform the information in the national water account to be able to report on those indicators. And I think in the current physical or the current Australian national water account, if you look at all the line items, it has over 256 line items or audited number. I reckon it would be easy to be able to report on most of the SDGs indicators. But at the moment, we haven't done it, but we are in the process actually to start look at that and see to what extent the national water account can actually meet those indicators.
Thank you, Dr. Amgad. Maybe there's one more question for you on the question list from Mr. Mohan Zadeh about efficiency issues. But before you take up that, let me show there are few people who want to intervene. There, Mr. Hafid Ghani is there. We have one Mr. Diren and one more other. So we'll come to you in a couple of minutes. Please bear with us. Yes, Dr. Amgad, please go ahead with that question on does water accounting consider the loss or efficiency of the system? For example, urban supply, irrigation, where it reflects in the water accounting sheets. This is from Mohan Zadeh. Yeah.
Yes, in a simple answer, yes, it does consider the or reporting on the loss of the system and also like the return flow and counting like for the river system, we count for all the losses within the river system from the point of release to the point of receiving or delivery. It reports the losses in terms of like evaporation losses and leakage in the urban within the urban area. It also report on all the losses and leakage and even bumpers and all of that. If you have time, I can show you the details of the urban system that we reporting on if you are interested.
Okay, we will move on to attendees who have raised their hands. And first of all, Mr. Hafid Ghani, are you still there, sir? Mr. Hafid Ghani? Okay, no. Then Mr. Ghanshyam Jha. Mr. Ghanshyam Jha, are you there?
Speaking.
Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, sir. Dr. Elmahdi, you have told that initially you are not monitoring the measurement and other things you are not doing. You are collecting from 200 sources. So how do you ensure coordination between them, the timeliness of supply of data, their consistency, and the measurement standard, because they might be measuring with the different methods which may not be as per the standard method. So how are these issues taken care of?
Yeah, thanks for your question. Yes, so the Water Act that been provided in 2007, it's supported by what we call it here Water Regulations 2008. And in the water regulations, we define the data that need to be collected, in what format, how it should be measured, the definitions, the standard, and also the time that need to be delivered to us. And based on that, we receive the information from all the organizations that need to be provide the data for us, including like what method or standard we have used. And this is part of our process in terms of quality assurance and quality control on the data we are receiving. In the first 2 years, there were a lot of hiccups in terms of data receiving. But once we establish the framework and provide also the platform for them and make it easy for them to provide the data, like we invest a lot in the first 2 years to help them and support all the data providers to develop their system or enhance their monitoring system. And this actually help a lot in terms of the standardizations of the system or the data that collected and the method that we use as well. And so far at the moment, we always receive the data on time where we requested, and this of course help us to maintain producing the national water account every year at the same time as well.
Okay, thank you. There are about 4 or 5 more questions, Dr. Amgad. I will send them to you and will request you to kindly answer them directly. But just last question, which I think is important, is Asra Khan. He or she says that, is historic data useful? If so, how many years should be considered?
Historic data, are you just related to the account or for other insight? Because, for example, in the account, so the account report on what happened in the last year or last financial year. And then the way you provide insight from this data, yes, you can look at the long-term historical report. And we use this information for our assessment. And we always look for like 30 years as a historical report as a minimum for us. Because Australia has a goodwill historical record, like some stations even go more than 100 years of data. But we use as a minimum 30 years of data to be able to use it as a long-term historical record.
Thank you. Sorry, just one more last question, and I think it's also the last question for me. The difference between WA, that is water accounting, and WA plus. As you know, Dr. Wim Bastinson is talking about WA plus. What is the difference between the two?
What is the WA plus? Sorry.
I think Professor Wim Bastin from UNESCO IHE, he talks about water accounting plus, and I think the main emphasis there is being able to make these water accounts through geostationary geo data, basically based on remote sensing. So maybe I think I think Livia can answer. Livia, can you please answer that? You are a panelist. You can open your, unmute your mic and please answer. Lydia? Hello? Lydia, please unmute yourself. You have self-muted. Okay, no, maybe no. Okay, I think we need to stop here. We are on time, and thanks a lot to Dr. Amgad. He has been really excellent in his presentation as well as in answering all the questions. And maybe I'll request the President to say a couple of words, how you feel the importance of this. Sorry. So you're self-muted.
Thank you very much. It was very excellent presentation. I would like to see this presentation in a text format to be sent to all our national committees for further consideration and gradually we distribute and disseminate this technology and technique for all the countries and members who are interested to adopt such approach to their water management at the national level.
Yeah, I think Dr. Amgad is part of our working group, so we will rope him in and make use of his expertise in doing that. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody who has been listening to this wonderful webinar. Thank you everybody for participating. And Dr. Amgad, you want to say something?
Yep, thanks everyone for having me, and for Dr. Nasir. Yes, I would assure you I would be happy to share it in a text format that can be shared more widely.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you soon in maybe next our Congress. Maybe you will be attending in there. Also.
Yeah, I'm planning, yeah, and also contributing to the country paper on the institutional reform, where we mentioned the water accounting as well.
Okay, thank you. I'm very sure that this approach can be used by other member countries effectively.
Yes, yeah, I am in contact now with the Egyptian government. They're looking actually to start adapt this approach and develop an Egyptian national water account. So some countries start to show some interest, and I think if we use the ICID platform, we can really promote this concept more widely.
That is what I recommend to our central office and also yourself to get that, put it in our platform for the dissemination.
Yeah.
And Dominique is suggesting that Dr. Amgad, could you write down the presentation and the answers to all the water accounting discussions so that it can be shared with all those who have not been able to attend this webinar, of course, and for the record also. Right. With that, I will thank once again to everybody. Thank you, Dr. Amgad. Thank you, Dr. Meteorology, and thank you, Dominique, for making all those groups working together on water accounting. We are really excited about this thing this week. Thank you. And
thank you very much. Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Okay. So, how was it?
It was interesting.
Yeah.
So one is in Australia.
Yeah.